Hey guys, what's up and welcome to an episode of Japan 101. In this episode, I'm going to do a recap of the how to import a car from Japan video. So this is going to be part 2 to that. I'm going to do kind of like a clear the air on a few things that a lot of people were like kind of confused about, asking stacks of questions. So we're going to answer like those most common ones, as well as just giving you an update of what the current like exporting car market is like here in Japan, pricing and stuff like that. So let's jump into it. Alright, first of all, let's talk about pricing. Now, I do want to talk to you guys a little bit seriously here for a second, and that is about you guys, like just people emailing me and going, hey, what's the price of a GTR? You know, 32, 34 GTR, what's the price of a Supra? What's the price of an NSX? Like, just literally just asking me that simple one question when in the previous video I was pretty certain I clearly said I can't do that. I can't just give you a price of exactly what this car will be shipped and everything sent to you for you to drive on the road, right? I live in Japan. I don't know the rules and any fees that you're going to be charged in your country, okay? I can help you if you have a budget. You tell me, hey, I want to spend $20,000 and that's for it shipped, not any fees that I may incur in my country, right? You give me that budget and I can tell you what I can do with that. I can go and look at an average sale price of cars in this type of condition and everything like that, right? That's totally doable and that's what I do. I don't have a whole set of cars just sitting here in stock that just have a price tag on them shipped and I can then just say, yeah, no worries, man, 15 grand for this, 12 grand for that, and then just take the money, boom, done. That's not how it works, and I'm sorry if you thought that way, but most people here in Japan that export cars, it is literally, hey, you give me budgets that you don't mind spending, like your maximum and your minimum, or you just tell me your max, and I try to find you something up until your maximum shipped, right? So here's a good example. Couple most recent customers, a few people that are actually dealers in the States, as well as a private individual, they've gone, hey, I want an R32 Skyline. And I've gone, sure, no worries, what's your budget? They've gone, hey, I don't want to spend any more than $10,000. And I've gone, okay, no problem. Does that include shipping or not including shipping? And then it's like, okay, that does include shipping. So then I find them an R32 GTST Skyline that's say, at the auctions for around $8,000 US. And then from there, we then add up all the fees and shipping. And then that's the total price of $10,000 on the dot, shipped, done. And then once it gets to his country, he may need to pay some fees for customs, as well as, registering the car and stuff like that. But relatively, he's gotten himself an R32 Skyline, turbo, RV20, rear wheel drive, and it's coupe, it's in nice condition, but he's got that in the States, probably on the road driving for around 11,000 US dollars. And, from that aspect in the USA right now, that's really good. I'm seeing GTSTs sell for around upwards of 13 to 15 grand now in the US. GTRs have skyrocketed as well. If we just talk about R32 GTRs, here in Japan, you're lucky to buy one from the auctions in nice condition for 20,000 USD. Take on shipping and any other fees plus commissions, you'll probably find them for around $25,000 to $30,000 now in the States. In fact, I've seen private sales in the States go upwards of $30,000 now. As well as in Australia, those cars have been in Australia for a very long time. You can't buy a nice, clean R32 GTR now for anything less than $30,000 roughly. So this is where the market's heading. You got to realize the 32 GTR is about to be listed as a heritage car, which then means they're going to be worth more money in factory clean condition than modified aftermarket parts bolted on condition, which is why Nissan has now started remaking all of those old parts, is because it's going to be a heritage listed car. If you can find an all stock R32 GTR and buy it right now for around $25,000 to $30,000, do it, because it's going to be an investment. In the next 10 years, that car's probably going to double in value, even maybe triple. And that's what we're seeing now with the 34 GTR. Previously in Australia, you could buy a 34 GTR for around $60,000 with a lot of bells and whistles on there. Now, $120,000. The price is just skyrocketing even more. Why is that? And that's probably because of the demand that people have seen when the 25-year law broke on the 32 GTRs and the 32 Skylines and other imports and RX-7s and stuff like that, is the demand for you guys in the States to buy these cars is so high that it just drives the price up. And now that everyone's starting to buy the 34 GTR to store and keep in immaculate condition for when that 25-year mark hits, the price has skyrocketed. So by the time the 25-year price probably hits, I'm predicting a 34 GTR is going to be around $200,000 US minimum. And that's not like a really nice condition one. So if ever you guys wanted to own a 34 GTR, you need to, and you have money sitting there and that's your dream, I really recommend trying to organize buying one and storing it here in Japan and paying storage fees until you can bring it over into the States, or start investigating the loopholes that are available in the States for you to be able to bring those cars over. I get a lot of emails from people, which I feel is just wasting my time. And it's okay for you guys to email me and ask me questions and stuff like that aren't readily available like on the internet and Google and forums and stuff like that. But when people are emailing me and asking me questions like, hey, can I import a car that's not 25 years old, that's like, 10 years old or something like that, like a 34 Skyline, I'm literally like, okay, you could have just typed this in Google and found the answer out. The short answer for cars that aren't 25 years or older is really no, you can't bring those into the States. Technically, there are some loopholes that you can get around with certain state laws and stuff like that, but I can't comment on that because I don't live in your country and I haven't investigated that to the fullest of my ability and stuff. All I can say is do your research online, but in all honesty, anyone here in Japan, they really don't want to deal with anyone who wants to try and get around the 25-year law, like bringing in 34 GTRs. It's really messy and potentially can come down to us having to pay a lot of money, especially if it gets to the docks and then you guys don't want to claim it because you did some paperwork wrong, and then the car's going to get destroyed and crushed, and then you don't want to pay. Like it can just be this huge disaster. So most exporters from here to Japan, we will not send you a car unless it's 25 years old. Yeah, so that kind of answers that question. There are loopholes, but that's entirely up to you to investigate, and I will take no responsibility in what happens there if you screw up, is what I'm trying to say. Other questions is, I touched on this just before, is people just message me and go, hey, what's the price of this car? Don't send me that. I can't tell you. Prices vary in the auctions, and it all depends on what you want, what condition of the car you want, and stuff like that. So as I said, it's best to just message me or email me and say, hey, this is my budget. Is this achievable? And with some details of what you want. Okay, that's really important. Tell me, like, if you want, if you don't want any scratches, no rust, all that type of itty-gritty details that I really need. So another really common email that I get is a lot of people saying, hey, I'm currently saving up to buy like a GTR or a Supra, one of these kind of supercar level cars, right? And they're like, I just want to gauge the market, work out what the current pricing sale point is of these cars. Can you tell me like what have the last like 10 sold for and stuff? And I think that's good, like that you guys are trying to gauge the market, and I think it's very like valid that you guys are trying to do that. But unfortunately, I'm going to be negative Nancy here, and I'm just going to be honest with you, is that, as I said before, the pricing on these cars is skyrocketing, and it's just going to keep going up. Like I said, they're getting into the heritage listing now, the classic category. So they're becoming collectibles. And if I was just going to be brutally honest with you, is that if you don't have the money now, you've missed the bandwagon. And I know that sucks, and that's really like crappy news for a lot of car enthusiasts, especially people who have always dreamed of having a GTR or a twin turbo Supra and those particular model cars, NSXs and things like that. But unfortunately, that is the truth and the reality, and I'm really sorry. But still you can keep saving, and hopefully one day you can get there. But it's just the more and more as time goes on right now, is the more and more that gap is going to increase of how much money you're going to need. Like I said, the 34 GTR, by the time that's available, I'm predicting that it's going to be upwards of 200 grand for that car. So if you can save and achieve that by the 25-year mark, then that's amazing. That's great. Good for you. But unless something happens like a miracle, or like, you get like a crazy amount of money from winning the lottery or something, I don't think that's going to be achievable for an average Joe or an average person like me or you, right? So just being honest with you and open with you, and I'm really sorry if that was some bad news for you, but it's the truth. Another thing I want to talk to you about is what has happened to the community and the market here in Japan, and what it's affecting Japan locally here with, the States exporting, importing so many engines and parts for these Japanese cars now, as well as all the cars that are going over to the States. The local motorsport industry, so drifting, circuit racing, toge, and local people who go out in the mountains and the streets. Also, grip runners and just anything in the motorsport industry, time attack and stuff like that, has been like drastically affected by what's happened. The 25-year law in the States has really hurt the industry. And the reason for that is, a really good example is secondhand engines, 2Js, RB26s, RB25s and 20s have gone up over 500% in price. Most companies that sell engines and sell all these parts and cars no longer even want to sell to people locally in Japan because they get more money selling it to people who are packing it into containers and sending it to the US and anywhere else in the world, right? What's happened to the US right now has really exploded the exporting market here in Japan with car parts, because now so many people in the States are getting them, social media is blowing up about the cars, and now everywhere else in every other country that can import them, they want the cars, and it's really brought that exporting market up, which is good for business, good for me, but it is terrible for the local community, and unfortunately, it has generated a fair bit of hate, mainly because all these people, these young uni students and stuff that were so dedicated to the industry and getting involved in drifting and toge and just like, grip running and time attack and stuff, can no longer afford it because of the price increase of all these items. And a lot of you guys probably, some of you might be in two mindsets about it. You might be like all of a sudden really grateful for what you've been able to get from Japan. But at the same time, there are some people that are probably like, yeah, so what? You guys have had it so easy for so long and we haven't been able to have it, and that's been unfair. But if I was to just be honest with you, this was all something that was made and developed in Japan, produced and manufactured here. And, Japan has had it for a very long time. It had been very cheap to them. And that seems totally fair to me. If it was a product made here and stuff, I think that that's totally fair that they get it at a cheaper price and we're the only people that were able to get it for so long. But yeah, just touching base on like everything that you guys are getting in the States and everywhere else in the world, please be grateful for it. Please like really understand that you are actually taking away from an industry here in Japan that, no longer people can afford and have fun in and stuff because of that. So just, before you go and do something silly with your engine, like, bolting on a huge turbo, forward facing plenum and stuff like that without getting a tune and knowing like that you're going to blow it up and just be like, it's all right, I'll buy another one. Just really be grateful for that. There's not many left. The supply here in Japan is getting low. That's why the price is starting to skyrocket so much, is we just don't have tons and tons and tons of this stuff like we used to. So please, as I said, be grateful for what you have. Don't take it for granted. And just don't be a douchebag, okay? The final thing I wanted to talk to you guys about was the process from A to B. So I just want to recap all of this. Obviously, it can be different from country to country. So I'll kind of touch on some of the countries that I do know. But the first step for exporting or importing the car into your company, exporting it from Japan, is you need to do some research, okay? You need to do a research for what is the law, or what do I need to do in my country and in my state for bringing a car in from Japan. Is it on the approved importing list? Is it, allowed? Are there any requirements and stuff like that, okay? Because from my perspective, if you go, hey, here's a budget, can you buy a car for me and put it on a boat? I can do that. There's no problem with that, right? Like, whatever. But you need to make sure you do your research so you know what you need to do once it arrives in your country, okay? So let's just go for a case scenario for the States and Australia, because I know those really well. And they're the my main customers, okay? So for everything here in Japan side, let's say the car cost $5,000, right? Let's just say like an old Silvia or something, S13 chassis, really nice kind of condition, but high mileage type of thing like that. So let's just say like an average, let's just go average S13 was $5,000, right? And then won it at the auctions for $5,000. Then we need to pay auction house fees, recycle fees, degassing fees, depending on which country you're in. Australia, you need to degas the air conditioning gas because the gas they use in Japan is illegal in Australia. Or in America, you don't need to worry about that. There's also some other fees as well involving transportation and stuff like that, like moving the car around, getting the car inspected, taking pictures and stuff like that. So there is auction fees after that, okay? So let's just say on average, I would say auction fees are around $1,000 total, depending on, like I said, transportation and stuff like that. So let's just say this case scenario, you won the car for $5,000. There's another $1,000 on top of that you need to add for auction fees, right? Then you need to take into account my commission. So depending on what was involved, $500 to $1,000 is normally roughly around it is. So it's normally like 2 packages. So like it just depends on how much paperwork and things that I need to do for you, as well as how much needs to be done in the sense of, if I need to go and look at the car and stuff like that, and if I need to do any traveling. Essentially, like, I'm being your eyes and ears, and everything that you ask me, I am doing, and I'm spending my time on that. So it all depends on how much time I spend doing what you need me to do. That depends on it. So normally it either falls into $500 or $1,000. For this example, let's just say my commission was $1,000, right? Let's say I had to do a lot of running around and a lot of paperwork and all this stuff, right? So we're now at $7,000, right? 5, 6, 7. So we're at $7,000. From here, shipping needs to come into account. On average, shipping to the States and shipping to Australia is around about the $1,500 to $1,800 mark, depending if you want insurance and stuff like that. So let's just say it's $2,000, right? We're now at $9,000 for a car shipped from Japan to your port, okay? In America, that's pretty much most of the money you're gonna spend, okay? You're looking at $9,000 US, cars at your port. You may have to pay a couple $100 there for customs. So once it arrives at your port, you're going to get contacted by a phone call or a letter or an email from customs saying, hey, this shipment that is under your name has arrived. We need you to contact us and tell us whether or not you have a shipping agent that's dealing with customs on this side, or if you want us to go ahead and start processing it. You need to call them back and say, yes, please, start processing it, and then give me a call when it's ready and let me know how much I need to pay you. So you're probably wondering, hang on, wait, I need to pay again for customs? You can't pay me here in Japan for customs in your country. It's literally like at an airport, right? You go through security. Once you get in customs to board a flight, say in the States, then when you come here to Japan, you then have to go through customs and immigration all over again, right? Same thing with shipping goods and stuff, right? Once it gets to America, that's an entirely different situation and entity. They need to process customs, take it through security and all of that, and they're going to charge you for that. On average, it's only a couple $100, but I have heard of cases, this has never happened to any of my customers, but I have heard of cases where sometimes customs are just in a bad mood. They hold your car for a few weeks in quarantine and charge you really expensive bills and stuff like that. But I've only heard of like nightmare situations where like the car wasn't cleaned and stuff before it got loaded on the boat, which is all part of my commission fee, right? I make sure the car's clean and all that type of stuff, right? But sometimes customs, just depending on how they're feeling, they can be like really, really nitpicky and like, oh, there's a leaf there, we have to hold it for a week and do something like that. So there is a bit of a chance involved there with customs that you need to take into account and be ready just in case that does happen. So as I said, this is a state scenario. Once it gets through customs, you can then go pick up the car. From there, you can register it pretty much right away. You just need to get your local police department to confirm the chassis number on it, take that paperwork into your DMV, boom, done. You can start driving it, insure it, good to go. Australia is a bit different. Before I can even put the car on the boat, what has to happen is I have to fill out a form on the government's website with the VIN and chassis number of the car, letting them know that, hey, this car is planning to be exported from Japan and imported into Australia for use on the road. Can I get your permission to do this? They then send me a letter. They check that VIN number is on the list of approved cars that are allowed to be imported into the country for road use. And they send me a letter back saying, yes, you have approval to bring this in and, for road use, providing that it meets the standards once it's there. So that then means I can ship it with all that paperwork. It gets to Australia. From there at the ports and after passing customs and stuff like that, it is then delivered or picked up, or you can deliver it yourself, or normally what I arrange is someone in Australia, whoever you choose to do your compliance, we organize them to pick it up, because normally that's what they do. They have tow trucks and stuff because they're used to picking up cars from the docks and compliancing them right away. Compliancing can cost anywhere from $1,000 to $3,000, depending on what your car needs. You got to realize that compliancing is literally just your car needs to pass an Australian standard safety certificate for driving it on the car, and there are certain requirements that need to be met. Things like, you need to have new brakes, you need to have new tires and all this type of stuff, right? So depending on what your car needs, depends on that price. So worst case scenario, let's just say $3,000. Let's say it needed all this work done, servicing and all this stuff, right? So $3,000 in there and $9,000. So you're looking at a $12,000 car now. And that's it. You can then go register it and you're good to go. The only other fees you're gonna pay for after that is, like I said, registering it, and then you gotta pay stamp duty on the car, which is you only pay stamp duty on the cost that it cost you for the car when you bought it. So that means the price you wanted at the auction. So that means you're only paying stamp duty for $5,000. Okay, and you'll have all that paperwork. I'll send that all to you. So you'll be able to show them that, and that's all you'll pay stamp duty on, which is, I think it's 10%. I don't know. It's essentially you just paying tax, okay, which sucks. But that's how it is. So at the end of the day, for Australians, I think it's definitely more expensive to import a car. But you are not going to get a car in Australia that's in good a condition that you're going to find here in Japan. So if you're really someone that is really into those niche kind of cars, definitely importing a car from Japan is way better for you than finding something that's been molested by someone in Australia. For people in America, totally would recommend you cost-effective wise. It is way cheaper and more cost-effective for you to get a car from someone like me here in Japan in my business than for you to buy it locally at a dealer. Once they get the car in the States, they're adding 5 to 10 grand on top of it sometimes. So that's just to tell you, like, that's where it's at. And that's normally start to finish, that's how it works. So from my perspective, my job is really to find you a car, pay for the car with your money, get all the paperwork sorted out here in Japan, get the car on a boat to you, send it to you, and make sure then that I give you all the paperwork that you need to do everything that you need to do in your country, and that's it. Alright guys, I really hope you found this video educational and helpful. I hope it really helped clarifying a few things and a lot of questions that people were asking from the previous video. But if you do still have any other questions, put it down in the comment section. I will try to reply to everyone, but if I don't reply to you, it is probably because I've also already answered that question to someone else. So just quickly scroll through before you ask a question, see if it's already been answered, and if it has, click the like button on it to bump it up so other people who are looking for that question will see it as well. Otherwise, guys, you're probably also wondering, okay, sweet, I like what I hear and I want to buy a car and I want to go through you or me. You know, for you, it's you, for me, it's me. That's confusing. Anyways, if you want to use me and my company for getting you a car, that's totally okay. More than willing to help you, and I'm super passionate about getting people their dream cars. So for a shameless plug here, I definitely want to do that for you. How to get in contact with me, I've put all the information in the description of this video, but if for some reason you still want to know my email without looking there, you can contact my company at sales@atakagarage.com.au. And as I said, email and all the information is in the description. So if you have any other questions, just go there and you can access my company's website, get in contact with me and stuff like that. Otherwise, guys, I think that just about wraps up the video. Thanks heaps for watching. Check out the rest of my channel for any other content. I do lots of vlogs here in Japan. I'm very involved in the car industry and the car culture here in Japan. I'm very heavily involved in drifting, so that's lots of fun. So go check out some of my other videos. But otherwise, guys, that's the end of the video. Once again, thanks heaps for watching. Make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe. Make sure you smash that like button. And I'll catch you all next time. Ciao, mata ne.